Here we are at the Drawdown for Congregations webinar. Thanks to everybody for joining us. We're going to wait just a minute to make sure folks have a chance to get on, and then we'll get started with our webinar today. For those of you who are already on, feel free to drop your name and where you are from in the chat box so we can see who is with us today. And for those of you who are just joining now, this is Interfaith Power and Light's Drawdown for Congregations webinar. We're so pleased you could join us today. And I've invited people to feel free to drop their name and where they're from in the chat box so that we can see who's with us today. And we just are going to wait just another minute to give folks a chance to get on here. I just want to let everybody know you're going to receive a link to the recording of this webinar in a few days. And I want to thank Oshki Scott, IPL's office manager and program assistant, for staffing this call today. And I think maybe we should get started now. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today on Interfaith Power and Light's Drawdown for Congregations webinar. We're so pleased you could be with us today. Please use the chat box to record your questions, or the Q&A box, I guess. Maybe the Q&A box would be better to put your questions in. And you'll receive a link to the recording of this webinar in a few days. So let's get started. Interfaith Power and Light inspires and mobilizes people of faith and conscience to take bold and just action on climate change. My name is Sarah Paulos. I serve as the Community Engagement and Programs Manager for Interfaith Power and Light. IPL's signature program, Cool Congregations, offers resources to assist congregations in reducing emissions of their facilities and in their members' homes. IPL is very excited to be able to have this conversation today with Dr. Bagley from Drawdown and with representatives from two congregations who have successfully employed some of the measures that rank high on the list of effective actions from the Drawdown methodology. These two congregations won prizes in IPL's Cool Congregations Challenge. Deb Scholerman from the Unitarian Universalist Society of Coralville, Iowa, will speak to her congregation's success in achieving a net zero building with their new facility. Karen Mills from Binkley Baptist Church in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, will tell us about their effective efforts to divert waste through a comprehensive composting program. And at the end of our presentation today, I'll invite your congregation to apply for this year's Cool Congregations Challenge. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce our main speaker. As the Director of Drawdown Learn at Project Drawdown, Dr. Elizabeth Bagley connects people with sustainability content and initiatives that inspire audiences to take action to help people and the planet thrive together. Dr. Bagley holds joint PhDs in Environment and Resources and Educational Psychology from the University of Wisconsin at Madison, where she studied how video games can encourage systems thinking about complex environmental topics. She earned joint Master of Science degrees in Conservation Biology and Sustainable Development and Educational Psychology. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Bagley.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, everyone. It is just an absolute pleasure to be with you today. I'm coming to you all from Southeast Alaska, an island called Sitka, which is the ancestral land of the Tlingit, that I'm very grateful for the stewardship that they've shown to this land since time immemorial. What a pleasure to be with you today and to talk about how we can reach drawdown. What are the climate solutions for the next decade? So I want to first start by warming up our fingers with the chat box again. Thank you to those of you who are just coming in and letting us know where you're from. I'd actually like to ask you this question. What comes to mind when you think of climate change and global warming? I would love for you to put your thoughts in the chat box, please. So I'm starting to see some insights about rising coastlines meet terror, suffering, overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, my heart is like hurting right now, folks. Urgency, grandchildren, future generations, extreme temperatures, refugees. It is really hard to keep up with all these. You all are right. Whew. All right, I feel like we might need a moment to take some deep breaths from all of the things that we feel and we think when we hear these phrases, climate change and global warming. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. Here's what comes to mind for most of us. Interestingly, the same kinds of things that came to mind for 14,000 people around the world when they were asked the same question. 44% of those people talked about the outcomes. They talked about things like changing weather, melting ice caps, really, really important and really heavy things that are happening because of our changing climate. 18% of those people talked about the causes of climate change and global warming, things like the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas. But only 3% of those 14,000 people said anything about solutions. So if we weren't thinking about solutions, we are far from alone, given the 14,000 people who were surveyed with that same question. And there's a real opportunity here, everybody. There's a real opportunity for us to start a conversation about climate solutions so that we can work together to put solutions into place in our houses of worship, in our homes, in our communities, and beyond. And so my hope today is that solutions will be one of the first things that come to mind when you think about climate change. The Cool Congregations Challenge has done an incredible job of motivating houses of worship across the country to put solutions into action. And how about you being next? You being next with your house of worship, with your home, with another community group. I am so excited to see you and your communities put more solutions into place. But you might be wondering, what are the solutions? Do they really exist? Well, actually, here they are. This is a slightly unreadable version of the poster behind me. And that's exactly the question that led to the formation of the nonprofit that I work for called Project Drawdown. We are the world's leading resource for climate solutions. That's what we focus on. In March of this year, we came out with a brand new publication called the Drawdown Review that's available for free on our website. Last week, we just put up our French and our Spanish translations, and I invite you please to visit the website, download those, share those with your houses of worship, your friends, your families. This is our latest research around the science of climate solutions. Well, you might be wondering, where do you get that research? Great question. We have an incredible group of research scientists with really diverse backgrounds from all around the world who scour the landscape of peer-reviewed publications as well as solutions on the ground today to figure out which solutions are the most scalable, are the most financially feasible, which ones do we actually have enough data to put into place today that can help us reach this crazy word, drawdown. You might be wondering, well, what is drawdown? Well, actually, the word drawdown is a scientific term. And that scientific term indicates the future point in time when levels of the heat trapping gases in the atmosphere stop climbing and start to steadily decline. This moment of drawdown is a critical turning point for Earth, and it's one that we need to reach as quickly, as safely, and as equitably as possible. But you might be wondering, how do we reach drawdown? Well, to reach drawdown, we need to work on all aspects of the climate equation. So let's imagine for a minute, be a little imaginative with me and imagine that the gray box that you're seeing on the screen that says the atmosphere is a container that's holding all of those heat trapping gases that humans are putting into the atmosphere. Well, the first part of the equation that we want to understand is, where are they coming from? What are humans doing that are putting those heat trapping gases into the atmosphere? Well, actually, here's where they're coming from. We know this. This is some pretty amazing science. We know that about a quarter of those heat trapping gases come from electrical production. About another quarter come from food, agriculture, and land use. 21% from industry, 14% from transportation, 6% from buildings, and about 10% are other energy-related emissions. Now, these are global numbers, right? It looks different in our own communities, in our own states, in our regions, but these are the global numbers of heat trapping gases put into our atmosphere. But thankfully, this is not where our story ends. Nature does an enormous favor for us and removes about 40% of those heat trapping gases that we put into the atmosphere. This is nature all by itself doing what it does best. But for those of you who are doing the math in your head, that still leaves about 60% of those heat trapping gases left behind. And what we end up with is a thick blanket around the planet. So knowing where those heat trapping gases come from and where they go, it really helps us identify this suite of climate solutions that we can all implement to reach drawdown. So now I'm going to show you the drawdown framework for climate solutions. You'll notice that that top bar, those sources of those heat trapping gases, are the exact same categories that were the sources in the rainbow diagram I just showed. So one of the things we can do to reach drawdown is we need to reduce sources. That's going to be our first S today. We're going to have 3 S's. So S number 1 is sources. We want to reduce our sources of those heat trapping gases. We also want to support and enhance sinks of carbon dioxide that are found in nature. Sources, sinks. And the third S that we want to focus on is society. We want to help society achieve broader transformations, and that's where we focus on health and education. So these 3 interconnected areas of action are the ways in which we must pursue globally, simultaneously, and with determination in order to reach drawdown. Today, I want to provide you with an overview of climate solutions that we have in hand now today. These are not solutions that are going to take 5 or 10 years to reach. We have them ready to go today to reach drawdown and to begin to come back into balance with the planet's living systems. These solutions are really tools of possibility in the face of a seemingly impossible challenge, as many of us noted in the chat. Climate change and global warming, when that comes top of mind, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of things that are making us potentially want to pull the covers over our head. What I want to talk about today, though, is that we have solutions. We have people, we have institutions of all kind in all places that have roles to play in this great transformation. And the solutions that we're going to talk about today are a synthesis of collective wisdom and collective action that are unfolding around the globe. So beyond addressing heat trapping gases, climate solutions can have what we call co-benefits that contribute to a better, more equitable world, things that people who are members of houses of worship know really well. Climate solutions are rarely just climate solutions. For example, those that curb air pollution are also health solutions. Others that protect and restore ecosystems are also biodiversity solutions. And many of those climate solutions create jobs, they foster resilience to climate impacts like storms and droughts, and they bring other environmental benefits like safeguarding water resources. And we know that the poorest and the most vulnerable among us, and those who have done the least to contribute to this problem, are the most impacted. Those include women and children, farmers struggling to raise crops, coastal residents losing their land to sea level rise and erosion, and indigenous people, especially in the Arctic, whose traditions are threatened and whose homes are being displaced by rising sea levels and thawing permafrost. So I want us to remember that it takes intention, care, and courage to move solutions forward in ways that heal rather than deepen systemic injustices. And we have the opportunity and the obligation to co-create systems that are safe and equitable, ensuring that both people and the planet can thrive together. So what can you do? Well, we know that widespread awareness and understanding of climate solutions is vital to kindle agency and affect change worldwide. And the world, our society, and future generations need all of us to be part of that solution. So how do you do that? Well, that's up to you. This is an image of youth marching for climate. That might not be your style. So I invite you to find what your style is. I invite you, first of all, to talk about climate. One of the most impactful things we can do is to talk about climate. And Dr. Catherine Hayhoe, a woman of faith and a fantastic researcher at Texas Tech, talks about how talking about climate is one of the most impactful things all of us can do to start to bring climate solutions top of mind. And all of you are taking a great step on your climate journey today just by learning with me. So I encourage you to share what you're learning with your community. So today we're going to dive into climate solutions that, when put into place, help us move towards drawdown. And we're going to go through some of these sectors. We don't have time today to go into every single one of them, but what's incredible is that the Cool Congregations Challenge has amazing examples of these solutions in place on their website. So I highly encourage you to check them out and get inspired. There are some real climate leaders in your communities, and let's learn from them. So let's start with electricity. Since the emergence of electrical systems in the late 1800s, society's created most of its electricity by using fossil fuels, by burning coal, oil, and natural gas. And that locked up energy of the long buried plants and animals, it's turned into electricity as carbon dioxide spills into the atmosphere as a byproduct. So what I'm going to show you for each of these sectors today is something we lovingly call our bubble diagrams. So our bubble diagrams are the size of the bubbles are all scaled relative to each other across all of the sectors. So the larger the bubble, the larger the global impact on, in this case, reducing a source of emissions. One thing I want to really mention, though, is that bigger doesn't mean better. We need all of these solutions. It's a really beautifully woven mosaic of solutions put into place as quickly, safely, and equitably as possible. For example, onshore wind turbines might not be the best fit in your community, but something like geothermal power might be. So I invite you to really dive into the drawdown mosaic of solutions and find from those global solutions what makes sense in your region and in your local context. So what you're seeing here with electricity is you're seeing that the main opportunities for solutions are in the electricity sector focus on shifting production, shifting away from fossil fuels, enhancing efficiency, and overall improving the system. So today, I want to tell us a story, and I want to tell us a story about how some of these solutions are being put into action in the Central Valley of California. There's an organization called Faith in the Valley where 120 congregations representing over 100,000 people are coming together with community partners to create a different and a better future for the Valley and its families and the communities. Their mission is really to unlock the power of people, to put faith into action in the public square, and to advance a movement for racial justice and health equity. They're working on building relational power, on lifting up a new narrative about the lives of people of color, and they're driving civic engagement efforts that move their community forward. So what does that look like in practice? It looks like a clean energy jobs campaign. Faith in the Valley is working with key partners to create tens of thousands of new well-paid clean energy jobs and job training pipelines for people who have been excluded from employment or who have struggled with poverty, and to really speed up the transition to clean energy and create healthier environments across the Valley. They're also partnering with prominent faith institutions to power their congregations and their facilities with renewable energy, and in the process, challenge cities and public entities to do the same. So how might you come together as a faith community and really embrace electricity-related climate solutions and support the co-benefits of racial equity? There are lots of examples on the Cool Congregations Challenge winners website, and I encourage you to dive in there and start to figure out what might make sense in your community. Another climate solution sector involves the ways that we grow and use food. Solutions in this sector focus on addressing food waste and diets, on shifting agricultural practices, and on protecting ecosystems. And today I want to talk about food waste. A third of the world's food is never eaten, which means that the land and the resources used and those heat trapping gases emitted in producing that food were completely unnecessary. But food waste is a solvable problem, and it's a problem that can be addressed through things like community composting. And inspired by a community composting project at All Saints Episcopal Church in New Albany, Ohio, which they were a winner of the 2019 Community Inspiration Cool Congregations Challenge, you can now access a step-by-step guide for starting your own community composting project at a site called changex.org. All Saints contracted with a local composting company to pick up compost from the church and invited church members to bring their compostables to the church for pickup. Stephanie, she's one of the Creation Care team members, said, "My family started composting in February and it's been great. I like to think about our food scraps helping to provide more food to our society in the future, like a mini circle of life." So what ideas do you have for reducing food waste in your community? While we might not be gathering in person right now, how might you start to put the wheels into motion so that when it is safe for us to gather again, you have this ready to go, and you're both reducing emissions from food waste. You're also supporting the community through hopefully finding a local composting program that can help regenerate the soil in your community. From concrete to computers, cars to clothing, industry is a sector of production that makes them all. And solutions in the industry sector look at things like using waste, addressing refrigerants, and improving materials. And it might seem like a lot of these solutions are only things that multinational companies can work on, but that's really not the case. We know that waste can be reclaimed as a resource, something of value, rather than something to discard, to reduce the use of raw materials and energy, which in tandem reduces emissions. So the most advanced approaches move us towards what we call a more circular economy, rather than a linear economy where things are ending up in a landfill. So one way you can move your house of worship towards a more circular economy and potentially connect with the community is by setting up a repair cafe in your town or your city. You can help create a more sustainable society where everyone can find a place, where repair expertise is cherished and passed on, and where valuable raw materials are used in a responsible way. It's fun. You meet people from the neighborhood and you also help the environment. And don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Change X also provides you with a step-by-step process for starting a repair cafe in your community. Think of the opportunities for fellowship and climate action, especially when we can meet again, because we know that repair is about much more than just reducing waste or emissions from manufacturing, though those are, of course, huge benefits. Repair is also about really understanding what we have, how it's designed, who makes it, and under what conditions. In short, it's really about rethinking what we value. We know that transportation is incredible. Mobility has played a critical and complex role in shaping society, and the demand for transportation is only growing. However, most of the energy driving mobility has been generated by burning gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. When we think about solutions in the transportation sector, we look at shifting to alternatives, enhancing efficiency, and electrifying vehicles. So what might that look like in our houses of worship? Well, many places around the country have dedicated parking space and sometimes even chargers for electric vehicle drivers. And some congregations, like the Second Congregational Church in Bennington, Vermont, which was a 2017 Community Inspiration winner of the Cool Congregations Challenge, they've taken sustainable transportation a step further. And they've done that by hosting on-site electric vehicle and electric bike demonstrations. They provide community members with a chance to try out new climate-friendly technology from a really trusted congregant. One of the most impactful climate actions we can all work towards, right, is talking about climate solutions. And by providing a hands-on demonstration of those climate solutions, that's an incredible extension of that action. When we can safely gather again, how might hands-on demonstrations of climate solutions like electric bikes and cars play a role in your next gathering? And might you consider hosting a bike sharing location on your property so that the community can access a climate-friendly shared resource? Do you have bike racks for people to store their bikes during a service? Seemingly small acts like that can really help support climate solutions and promote healthy lifestyle choices too. We know that buildings are major drivers of emissions, and some stem from the materials that comprise buildings and the process of construction, renovation, or demolition, and what's known as embodied carbon. And many more emissions are the result of ongoing use. And that's where we want to focus on both enhancing efficiency and shifting energy sources. So today I want us to think about, while we definitely want to get our houses of worship in order, and we want to, and there's lots and lots of examples on the Cool Congregations website about how you can put lots of these solutions into practice in your buildings. I want us to actually think about extending into our communities. And that's going to take us to Raleigh, North Carolina's Community United Church of Christ, a 2016 Cool Congregation Challenge Community Inspiration winner. They took to heart the mission of making the world a better place by installing solar panels to reduce the church's own source of heat trapping gases, and by helping those in the community most impacted by climate change to weatherize their homes. The task force invited 15 other congregations to participate in the weatherization program. The power of partnerships. Let's remember that we don't have to do any of this alone. Let's reach out into our communities and find other like-minded groups and individuals who want to help and really accelerate these solutions forward. By enhancing building efficiency, by uplifting residents and building partnerships, communities can be powerful leaders in advancing health equity and community resilience. So what might that look like in your faith community? Could you explore a bulk solar purchase plan? What about some how-to videos on weatherproofing and sharing them in your weekly newsletter? And so shifting from reducing sources, we just covered the first S. The second S is sinks. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that today, but it's important for us to know that both the land and the ocean are incredible sinks of the heat trapping gases that we put into the atmosphere. And one organization that's doing a great job of embracing the sinks are the Sisters of St. Joseph in Brentwood, New York. They're winners of the Cool Congregations Challenge Sacred Ground Steward Award in 2016. And they feel a sense of responsibility to the land in their care. They pulled from their religious and ethical beliefs to create a plan for the future of the land that they owned. The Sisters of St. Joseph worked with the local land trust to preserve parcels of the Brentwood campus and return it to agricultural production. Now there are 28 acres of land that are leased to several organic farmers, where they then are enhancing the healthiness of the soil, and they're selling the local produce at a local farmer's market. So they know that healthy soil sequesters more carbon. It acts as an important land-based sink, which is a critical climate solution. So how might your faith community enhance carbon sinks on the properties you steward? We want to reduce sources, we want to support sinks, and we want to improve society. And those are solutions that we should implement anyway, even if climate change wasn't an issue. We know that climate and social systems are profoundly connected, and those connections open up solutions that are often overlooked. Some initiatives designed primarily to ensure rights and foster equality also have cascading benefits to climate change. They include access to high quality voluntary reproductive health care, and to high quality inclusive education, which are fundamental human rights and cornerstones of gender equality. In more indirect ways, making strides in health and education can also benefit the climate. And I want us to remember that it's critical that human rights are always centered, that gender equality is the aim, and that benefits to the planet are understood as positive ripple effects of access and agency. So if we do all of these things, if we reduce sources by implementing solutions focused on electricity, food, agriculture, and land use, industry, transportation, and buildings, if we support sinks on land and in the ocean, and if we improve society through healthcare and education, we can actually reach drawdown. So I've shared a few climate solution stories with you today. You have so many more of your own climate solution stories underway in your community. So what's next? Well, there's a lot going on at Project Drawdown these days, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. In early 2021, you can expect some incredible videos that dive into the science behind climate solutions. Our executive director, Dr. Jonathan Foley, is the host of these videos with these 10 climate experts from around the world, and we'll be really making climate solutions accessible. Those will be freely available, and we'll make sure that you know when those are out in early 2021. They might be great jumping off points for your discussions about climate solutions that can lead to action. Soon, the poster behind me will be available for you to download and order or print from our website. So they're a two-sided poster that has incredible information that inspire me every day when I come into my home office. So what will you do? And what will your community do? Well, hopefully you've been introduced to a range of climate solutions with diverse intervention points across all levels of agency. And we know it takes a whole ecosystem of activities and actors to create and accelerate the transformation that's required. So I'd love to invite you back to the chat now, everybody. And I'd love to ask the same question that we started with. What comes to mind when you think about climate change and global warming? Oh my gosh, this is the part, everybody, where I always feel like I just have the biggest, warmest, fullest heart, where people are talking about hope. They're talking about teamwork, opportunities, working together, a sense of responsibility, challenges we can actually attract, reaching drawdown. Oh my goodness, everybody. Thank you so much for thinking about that, because, you know, one thing I want us to leave with is, what do you want to reach towards? Because the reality of intervening in this complex system is that no one of us can do it all. We all have an opening to show up as problem solvers and change agents and contribute in significant ways, even when we feel small, because we're living in this dramatic time of transformation. And society has a choice to make about what shape the transformation will take. Will we employ the collective courage and determination and the diversity of solutions to move the world towards a balance with the planet's living systems? Will we pursue climate action in ways that heal systemic injustices and foster resilience, well-being, and equality? Who will we choose to be in this pivotal moment of human history? Because together we can absolutely leverage the solutions at hand today to build a bridge from where we are now to where we want the world to be for ourselves, for all life, and most importantly, for generations yet to come. A better path is absolutely still possible, and may we turn that possibility into reality. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bagley. That was so inspiring. And thank you also for sharing the stories about the IPL congregations that are pursuing climate solutions. And we're going to turn to two of those congregations now to hear some solutions that are being employed by some other IPL Challenge winners. First, Deb Scholerman from the Unitarian Universalist Society of Coralville, Iowa, will speak to her congregation's success in energy use reduction with their new net zero building. I'll turn it over to you, Deb.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Again, thank you for inviting us to be part of this program today. I'm pleased to be able to share our facilities and our process and building. I also want to let you know that we have a team from our congregation who has presented 12 drawdown workshops since 2017. We used to do them in person, and now we're doing them via Zoom, and that seems to be working just fine. The seventh principle of the Unitarian Universalism is respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. This means all living things are connected. This principle compels us to take responsibility for the planet's well-being. Inspired by this, we chose to build the greenest building possible within our means. It took our congregation over 20 years to come to agreement to finally decide to leave our 107-year-old building in downtown Iowa City. We thoroughly explored the option of remodeling, but it became apparent that it would be cost prohibitive and we would still have no parking or green space. We tried, but were unable to find a suitable building for repurposing. In the spring of 2016, we found a beautiful, partially wooded 5.5 acre piece of land in Coralville, about 5 miles from our Iowa City church, and we bought it. Our church is an accredited Green Sanctuary congregation through the Unitarian Universalist Association. Our Green Sanctuary team began work in 2008 and has been focused on educating and leading our congregation on how to live the seventh principle since. The values of sustainability, environmental justice, and caring for the earth were long in place before we began to plan and build our new facility. The Green Sanctuary team helped lay the foundation for our congregation to embrace the slogan during our capital campaign: we're building the greenest church in Iowa. During this time, we had wonderful leadership from our Board of Trustees, the new facilities committee. We had a very successful capital campaign and continued involvement from the congregation. Earth Day 2016 was groundbreaking. Actual construction took 18 months and we moved into our facility in October of 2017. A day for celebration indeed. We had many successes. Our capital campaign raised more money than we had anticipated. We had buy-in and support from the congregation, 90% approval on every major decision. And our members stayed involved throughout the entire planning and building process. And we had fun doing it. Our new facilities committee worked tirelessly with our lead certified architects. And of course, our greatest success was the creation of our wonderful building that is accessible, beautiful, and functional. The building is one level with 18,455 square feet that includes many of the features that are mentioned in Drawdown. On-site renewable energy production through a solar array of 429 solar panels. Based on our utility bills, we know that we produce more electricity in a year than we use. The building includes geothermal heating and cooling system with 10 heat pumps. We have charging stations for electrical vehicles, Energy Star appliances, smart thermostats, LED lighting everywhere with motion activated switches. We have low water use plumbing devices, radiant heating, and more. To conserve our woodlands, we limited the parking lot to 75 spaces. We encourage our members to walk, ride their bike, carpool, or use nearby parking lots if they do drive. We have 3 retention cells that manage the stormwater runoff, and they are planted with pollinators and native grasses. We had some challenges along the way and a couple of disappointments. We had wanted to install permeable paving in the parking lot, but because of a Coralville ordinance, we were not able to do that. It was a challenge to raise the money for the solar array that was not included in the cost of the building. But a group of our members formed an LLC and raised the funds to purchase the array. And now through a power purchase agreement, the church buys electricity from the owners of the array. Batteries for electrical storage are still cost prohibitive, so we don't have a way to store the extra power that we produce. We have started, but not yet completed the application for the Living Building Challenge for its certification. But due to the complexity of that application, the length and the cost, we haven't finished it. But we do know, we're confident that we are a zero energy building. The other disappointment is that Lynn County Rural Electrical Company does not provide net metering like some energy companies. When we overproduce in the summer, they pay us a fraction of what we pay when we need to purchase in the wintertime. I think the biggest surprise that we've had is that the woodpeckers on our land really like our cedar cladding. They like hanging out on it and they're pecking holes in it. So right now we're buying a lot of suet to distract them. We're learning to live with all the wildlife on our land, the deer, the turkeys, there's a woodchuck, with occasional coyote, squirrels, and of course the birds. We miss being in our building and we look forward to when we can return to full use of our sacred space. Now, Sarah I get to share some pictures, which will be the fun part. Okay, so this is what we call our front yard on Oakdale Road. You can see a large part of the solar array. On the other side of this sidewalk is our labyrinth, which was completed in 2019. And we share this with the public. It's open to the public. It's a favorite place of a lot of people. Here's an overview, an air view of our site without the front part by the street. You can see there's about 150 solar panels on the roof. There's a small array to the north, and then the largest one in the front yard. This is the building from the west in 2018. Before we planted 58 conifers, we put more trees in there. This is the view from the east. This is the sanctuary that you're looking at. It's on the left side of this building. The kitchen's on the far right without the windows, and the fellowship hall is in between the two of them. This is the front entrance to our building. One of my favorite parts is walking through these doors into the atrium and then being able to see through the glass wall and the doors, the woods that are beyond. The sanctuary is to the right and the fellowship is to the left. The sanctuary seats about 250 people. And as you can see, we can see the trees outside. It's got lots of natural light. We, like many congregations, are doing Zoom services right now. And our minister actually goes into the sanctuary and she's speaking from the pulpit. She didn't like speaking to empty chairs. So she asked us to print pictures and bring them in. And I included this picture in part because you can see through the sanctuary into the atrium and through the fellowship hall on the other side. So we have a wide open space, again, with lots of natural light. This space is where the classrooms are. They're behind this couch and to the right. This is overflow. You can see through the sanctuary again. So parents with young children can sit here and participate in the service and still see. This is the fellowship hall, seats about 350 people. It'll be crowded, but we can maybe get that many. The kitchen is at the end, and the kitchen is very functional. Lots of counter space, so it makes it easy when we're cooking food and preparing meals for a crowd. We've been recycling and composting, of course, for many years, and you can see that set up there. This is one of the bioretention cells the day we were planting native grasses. This is again on the east side, and you can see the sanctuary behind. The woods are right behind to the east of the sanctuary and the fellowship hall, and this was a picture in the spring. We also have trails throughout our woods that our members really enjoy walking on all times of the years, any season. And when you're walking on the trails, you never know who you're going to run into. Could be another person, it could be some of the critters that live there. This picture was taken Christmas Eve, 2017, 2 months after we moved in. And one of our members decided he went out during the service to take this picture. And this is my very favorite picture of our facility. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Deb, for sharing that information about your congregation. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat box. Lovely, inspiring, amazing, bravo. So thank you so much. We're going to move on now to Karen Mills from Binkley Baptist Church in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, who's going to tell us about their successful comprehensive composting program. I'll turn it over to you, Karen.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm going to try to share this screen. Give me a second. Give me a second. Okay, there we go. Okay, I am Karen Mills, and I am a member of the Earth Ministries Committee at Binkley Baptist Church in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We are one of the recipients of the 2018 Cool Congregation Challenge winners, and my partner and I are affectionately known as Trashy Women. When asked why do we choose to implement a composting program, it honestly began with we were asked to help with Wednesday night dinners. And since we had a restaurant for 20 years prior to that, we had been composting at the restaurant, and we wanted to continue doing the same thing as we were preparing food for Wednesday night dinners. And when you really stop to look at it around at the church, we were appalled at the large amounts of food waste that we generate in a church, and then it was just being sent to the landfill. So we felt that composting was an integral part of this food ministry and a part of our community commitment. Hope you can see the pictures there. So the way we made this happen is when we began Wednesday night dinners in January of 2018, we basically put some buckets out and we would haul the compost off-site. And we began in February with a Greening Binkley effort, looking around the church and seeing what we could do. And with the help of Earth Ministries, the church adopted a proclamation of sustainability on Earth Day in April 2018. Linda and I designed a 3-stream waste diversion system for the church campus to try to figure out how to collect compost and what was trash and how we were going to get it out of the building. With on-site cooperation we have 2 preschools and a Meals on Wheels chapter, we began compost collection in May 2018. We were able to partner with the Orange County Organics Program, which partners with Brooks Contractor, and they are a commercial composter nearby in Chatham County. And they pick up the compost in the county for participating groups and carry it to the composting facility. And we were able to do all this with the support of our church council, many committees, and of course, the congregation. Our biggest challenge, and when we speak to other congregations, is creating that congregational buy-in. Because part of what we're doing is changing the culture around waste and around the waste diversion and convincing people on why composting matters. This is involving youth participation, a lot of it's education, but we really wanted to find out what was important to our members. Is it the social justice angle? Is it racial justice? Is it composting for eco-justice or creation care? And we found that awareness and education and mainly feeling like you can make a difference, there's our buy-in. And we also like to make it fun. One of our biggest successes that we think about is what we call winning over the skeptics. When we first started this, anything new sometimes is scary to people. They don't know what's compostable. They don't know how to do it. And so there was a lot of enthusiasm and impatience that went along with implementing this and just answering questions. We kept it personal for folks and kept the focus local. And let me tell you what, we gave a whole lot of high fives, gold stars, and hugs just to reward effort. And that's been the most awesome part, is watching the people who in the beginning were against learning, and now they're the ones educating others. And with measurables, we try to relay this to our congregation on a regular basis. And in less than, about 2 years, we have diverted about 41 tons of organics from the landfill, which is about 36 metric tons of avoided CO2 emissions. And like I said, we work with Brooks Contractor, which is a local family-owned business nearby. And they actually come to the campus, empty the bins, and haul it off. So we just couldn't do it without them, honestly. So right now at Binkley, we use only reusable and compostables. We hopefully have discouraged most single-use purchases. We're getting people to get back in the kitchen and cutting down on prepackaged foods. We have improved our recycling collections, and I hope we've created excitement and awareness around sustainability. Like I said, Linda and I are working with other faith groups who come to us with questions and wanting to implement similar systems to what we have at Binkley. So do we do a lot of tours and a lot of presentations to other community organizations. And so when we started this in 2018, in just under 8 months, we diverted 10 tons, 2019, almost 26 tons. And before the pandemic, we were averaging about 2.5 tons of compost collection. I want to give you just a few images of our bins. And when we go around to speak to other organizations, we tell them to consider what they want to put into places. And at Binkley, nice mattered when it became to what was going to be a very visible place for collection. So our nicest bin is right outside of our narthex, where people come into the church. And then we have a little more modern functional bins at our other entrances. And then we have one that's a little more portable in the fellowship hall, so we can move it as the function requires, or even take it out to the compost bins. And we still use 5-gallon buckets. These are a few more of throughout the facility. We put the fun 3-compartment, 3-stream bins down for the kids because it has cartoons, it's It's cute, and it really is an educational component that's really important. And then we also have a portable bin that we used to take back and forth to classrooms and to meetings and things like that, so that it makes it easier for people to transport the compost back to the kitchen. These are our outside collection bins. We actually have 4 bins at this point, and we get picked up twice a week by Brooks because these are a little bit too full. So, and then we also encourage our members to bring their compost from home. So this is actually a picture of someone coming back from vacation where they had collected their compost and brought it back to the church to dump in. This is the little bit, we set up a compost station in the kitchen where, again, those portable units can be taken to, groups can check them out and they bring them back to the kitchen. We increased our signage, and then we also, everything in our pantry is compostable. So it's either compostable or reusable, and that's been very helpful. One of the big things that was really helpful in the beginning is waste station monitors. It's basically someone standing by the collection center and telling people what goes where. So it's, again, the educational component and awareness of just people learning. Even though we have all compostables, they'll still come up to us with a cup and, is this compostable? So, and what that means is also a lot of digging through the trash like Linda's doing in that one there to just get out contaminants. And we do have 2 preschools on campus and a Meals on Wheels chapter. And believe it or not, there's a lot of food waste was generated from both of those. And so with their cooperation and involvement, it really helped to cut down on the amount of food that was going to the landfill. And then we have some outside user groups as well who come in and use our fellowship hall for holiday parties and things like that. And so we're able to partner with them and educate a lot of the groups. We actually amended the building user contracts to include these sustainability guidelines and include them in future contracts. And again, education, we are always available. We are by phone for questions that a group might have. These are just fun pictures that I wanted to share because we do try to make it fun. We have some working with vermicomposting with kids at Vacation Bible School. Just after any event, you're going to see the green bucket somewhere if it involves food. And we are greatly appreciative of our prize money that we received as a winner. And so one thing we've done so far, Sarah, is we have framed our certificate, and the rest of it is in a green fund that we're waiting to see what we might. And we've got a lot of good ideas, I think, right now going on after this seminar about what we may be able to use the money for. So thank you, IPNL, for asking us to share our story and for the prize money. Oops, let me stop share. There.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes.
Your congregation is just doing amazing work out in the community. That's fantastic. That's really wonderful. We just have 2 minutes to take any questions we might have. And I wanted to invite you, Dr. Bagley, if there was a question in particular that you would like to respond to in the next couple of minutes.
Hi, sure. I'm working the Q&A and thanks so much, everybody. And thank you so much. I just want to echo to Karen and Deb for the incredible work that you're doing in your congregations. I think one of the things, what I'd love to talk about, small versus large actions. And I actually am going to put something in the chat box. I'm going to put a couple of things in the chat box for those of you. And for those of you who are maybe new to this, there should be 3 little dots in your chat where you can actually save the chat content. And Sarah and I will work together too to put some of the links in an email to you all, so you don't miss out on that. So what I just put in the chat box is a link to the Drawdown review. On that same website, we have links to some of the charts that I shared as well that you're welcome to download and use in your presentations as you're communicating with people. I also want to share a fantastic podcast that my colleague Catherine Wilkinson and Dr. Leah Stokes from UC Santa Barbara just started, and they do a better job. And I don't have quite the time I'd really want to dive into, should we have all government regulation or all individual actions? The answer is no, right? The answer is all of it, right? And we all have an opportunity to show, oh, you know what? I messed up. Thank you, everybody. I put that in the wrong thing. Let me see. I need to do panelists and attendees. There it is. There's the podcast, and I'll put the drawdown review in there as well. In one of the latest podcasts that they have, they talk about just that tension that so many people feel. And I want to kind of, there's not any right answer, right? We need to reach drawdown, and there's lots of ways to do it. We want to make sure that we are reducing sources, we are supporting sinks, and we are improving society. Those 3 S's, right? And all levels of agency are important. And I think that when we get into individual actions don't matter, or it's only government actions that matter, or vice versa, that actually isn't a productive conversation, right? And so I want to invite us to really think about everybody having an opportunity and an obligation to share our values and move them forward in the ways that we can in our communities. I mean, loads of folks will, we all have a gazillion things going through our mind every day. And what I think is so great about, especially what Deb and Karen are doing in their congregations, is we're meeting people where they're at, right? We can't teach people to run before they can walk, right? We need to really meet people where they're at. And Karen said it so well that, change can be really hard for people, and getting people to come along on a journey can be really bumpy at first. And so having empathy, being patient, really connecting with people where they are, and for all of us in our houses of worship, leaning into those shared values that we have. I won't take away from, what Dr. Catherine Hayhoe talks about, but she does it so brilliantly, where let's find those common values and let's grow from there. Instead of setting us up for these kinds of conflicts, it's like, let's all get to work. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's keep on working. So that's one thing I wanted to address. Thank you, Sarah, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. That's a very, very important point that you just made. And congregations are a great place to organize collaboratively for wonderful solutions. And now we're just about to close out here, and I wanted to tell everybody about the Cool Congregations Challenge. It's a national annual contest that Interfaith Power and Light runs to recognize cool congregations that are becoming energy efficient and sustainable role models in their community. And I was going to show you what the different categories are that you can enter. So here we've got, there's a link, coolcongregations.org/the challenge. And I'll be sure to send you that link in the follow-up email. There are 5 entry categories with a $1,000 prize for the top winner in each category. There's the Cool Congregations Planner, covers energy audits, making concrete plans to reduce emissions, and fundraising for them. The Energy Saver Award encompasses lighting, insulation, windows and doors, heating and cooling systems. The Renewable Role Model Prize includes solar, wind, geothermal, and solar water heating. And the Sacred Ground Steward Award is for native landscaping, organic gardening, water conservation, bike racks, wildlife habitats, and yes, recycling and composting. And the Community Inspiration Award is for inspiring congregants to reduce at home, helping communities transition from fossil fuels to clean energy, helping communities prepare for the impacts of climate change. Projects can take place inside the worship space or other buildings, on the grounds, in congregants' homes, or in the community. Now, because COVID has put a pause on many planned projects for this year, IPL is extending the project completion window for eligible projects to include those completed in 2018, 2019, and 2020. So consider applying for a Cool Planner category award if your congregation has made plans that you had hoped to complete this year, but were not able to complete because of COVID. So don't wait. The deadline is December 15th. Here's some of our past winners from last year. See the link in the chat box or on the screen to enter the challenge. I'll also send it to you in a follow-up email, and you can download an entry guide. It includes all of the details as well as a flyer to get your green team excited about entering and inspirational stories of past winners and links to the entry form. So you'll receive a link to the challenge in your follow-up email. And we'll also send you information on how to find a drawdown presenter in your area. Thank you very much for that contribution of information, Dr. Bagley. And then we'll also include Deb and Karen's email so you can follow up with them and ask them questions about the various things that you want to know about how they accomplished those amazing success stories in their congregation. And to our listeners, I just wanted to invite you to drop your thanks in the chat box now to all of our speakers. And I wanted to let you know that we'll be sending you the links to, that were all the links in the chat box, in addition to Cool Congregations and to Drawdown and any of the other links that Dr. Bagley put into the chat box, so that you'll be sure to get all of this information. And we'll have this recording sent to you in email and also posted up on our YouTube channel and possibly Facebook too. I'll have to ask Ashki about that one. So I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Bagley, for sharing your knowledge with us on drawdown solutions. IPL is especially honored to have you with us today. And I want to thank you, Deb and Karen, for filling us in on the good work that your congregations are doing. I just want to say we're so pleased with the impact that you're having in your communities from the work that you have done. And I hope everyone listening to this webinar will be inspired to take action to reduce climate change emissions from their congregations, their homes, their businesses. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. So have a good day. Take care.